Ancient Greece, the cradle of philosophy, the arts, and democracy, was one of the most influential civilizations in Western history. Its city-states, such as Athens, Sparta, and Thebes, shaped politics, culture, and thought in ways that still echo in the modern world. But how was it possible that such a grand and respected empire was subjugated by Rome, a rising civilization in the Mediterranean? This is the question we are going to explore. Amid political intrigue, epic battles, and a surprising cultural fusion, the story of Rome's conquest of Greece was not just a matter of brute force. There was much more at stake than mere military victories. In this video, we will uncover how Rome, initially a distant ally of Greece, ended up dominating and absorbing this legendary civilization, creating an empire that would influence the world for centuries. Now, prepare to discover the true story of how Rome conquered Greece and transformed the destiny of the West forever. To understand how Rome managed to conquer Greece, it is crucial first to explore the context of both civilizations before their confrontation. At its height, Greece was made up of various independent city-states, each with its own government, culture, and army. Athens, for example, was famous for its democracy, philosophy, and art, while Sparta was renowned for its military power and strict discipline. Although these cities shared a common culture, they were often in conflict with one another, which ultimately weakened Greek unity as a whole. On the other hand, Rome, in the centuries preceding the conquest of Greece, was a rapidly growing city in central Italy. Unlike Greece, Rome was not divided into independent cities, but was unified under a centralized government that allowed the creation of a powerful standing army. The Roman Republic, with its military discipline and diplomatic skill, had already expanded its territory across the Western Mediterranean, conquering vast regions and establishing itself as a rising power. Over time, Rome began to take an interest in Greece's wealth and influence. Even fascinated by Greek culture, which had already spread throughout the Mediterranean, the Roman Republic had its own strategic interests. Controlling Greece offered not only cultural prestige, but also control over crucial trade routes and vast resources. This growing dynamic between the two civilizations was about to change. But how did Rome, still emerging, find itself entangled in Greece's internal disputes? It is at this point that history takes a dramatic turn, revealing how Rome exploited the internal division between the Greek city-states to intervene and eventually conquer. As Greece advanced in its history, internal divisions began to erode its strength. Rivalries between the city-states were constant, and the most significant conflict was the Peloponnesian War, fought between Athens and Sparta. This conflict, which lasted nearly 3 decades, 431 to 404 BC, not only weakened these two great powers, but also left all of Greece in a state of instability and political fragmentation. After the war, no city-state managed to consolidate itself as a leader, and internal tensions only increased. In addition to internal disputes, Greece also faced external threats. The Kingdom of Macedonia, under the rule of Philip II and his son Alexander the Great, emerged as a new power to the north. Although Alexander was responsible for spreading Greek culture through his vast conquests in the east, his death in 323 BC left a power vacuum. Alexander's generals, known as the Diadochi, fought among themselves for control of his empire, further weakening Greece's defenses and cohesion. It was in this scenario of division and fragility that Rome began to closely observe the events. Seeing the opportunity to expand further in the Mediterranean, Rome became involved in Greek affairs through a series of wars known as the Macedonian Wars. Initially, Rome appeared as an ally of some Greek city-states against the Kingdom of Macedonia. However, as its presence solidified, it became clear that Rome's intentions went beyond simple alliances. Internal weakness and external threat left Greece vulnerable. With its cities disunited and armies exhausted, the stage was set for Rome to step in with all its might. Roman interventions, disguised as support, soon turned into a campaign of domination, leading Greece down an irreversible path. Rome's entry into the Greek scene was neither immediate nor aggressive. Initially, Rome stayed on the sidelines of Greek disputes, focused on its own expansion campaigns across the Western Mediterranean. However, with the end of the Punic Wars against Carthage, Rome began to turn its gaze eastward, where the rich and influential Greek city-states, as well as the Kingdom of Macedonia, offered new opportunities. Rome's first intervention came during the First Macedonian War, 214 to 205 BC, when Rome came into conflict with Macedonian king Philip V, who had allied with Hannibal during the Punic Wars. Although Rome did not get deeply involved in this conflict, the war opened the door for future interventions. The temporary peace that followed left Philip V in power, but tensions continued to rise between Rome and the Macedonian rulers. It was during the Second Macedonian War, 200 to 197 BC, that Rome began to show its true strength. Philip V, eager to expand his territory in Greece, began to threaten the Greek cities, which gave Rome the pretext to intervene as the defender of Greek freedom. With a series of decisive victories, including the famous Battle of Cynocephaly in 197 BC, the Romans defeated Philip and established a dominant position in Greece. Although Rome had promised freedom to the Greek cities after this war, in practice, its influence grew year by year. Rome knew how to play with internal Greek rivalries, supporting one city-state or another according to its strategic interests. Rome's diplomatic skill, combined with its military superiority, allowed it to insert itself into internal disputes without resorting to immediate occupation. However, the situation between Rome and Greece changed drastically after the death of Philip V and the ascension of his son Perseus to the Macedonian throne. Perseus tried to restore Macedonia's power in the region, leading to the Third Macedonian War, 171 to 168 BC. Once again, the Roman legions demonstrated their superiority, defeating Perseus at the Battle of Pydna in 168 BC, sealing the fate of Macedonia and Greece. From that moment on, Rome consolidated itself as the dominant power in Greece, and Macedonia was divided into 4 republics subject to Rome. However, the story was far from over. Greek tensions continued to simmer, and Rome, realizing the political and economic advantages, began to impose its authority even more directly. After the Roman victory over Macedonia at the Battle of Pydna in 168 BC, Greece's fate was practically sealed. However, Greece's true submission would only be complete with the end of its military and political resistance. Despite the defeats, many Greeks still held on to hope of regaining their independence. Rome, on the other hand, continued to consolidate its power, and any attempt at revolt was quickly and brutally repressed. The final conflict that marked Rome's complete domination over Greece came in the form of the Achaean War. The Achaean League, a confederation of Greek cities in the Peloponnese, rebelled against Rome's growing influence in 146 BC. Led by Corinth, one of Greece's wealthiest and most influential city-states, the League believed it could restore Greek independence by challenging Roman power. However, this belief soon proved fatally mistaken. Rome, already weary of Greek rebellions and determined to consolidate its control, responded with overwhelming force. The Roman general Lucius Mummius led the Roman legions against the Achaean League and, in a swift and devastating conflict, defeated the Greek armies at the Battle of Corinth. The Roman victory was not only military, but also symbolic. After the battle, Mummius ordered Corinth to be sacked and destroyed, sending a clear message to all Greek city-states. The era of Greek independence was over. The destruction of Corinth marked the end of Greek resistance to Roman hegemony. Rome transformed Greece into a province under its direct control, and any attempts at autonomy were crushed. The Greek cities, which once competed for supremacy in the Greek world, now found themselves united under Roman rule. Militarily, the Roman legions demonstrated their superiority over the Greek forces, especially in terms of discipline and combat tactics. While the Greek armies relied on the phalanx, a formation of heavy infantry, the Roman legions were more flexible and adaptable, allowing them to defeat the phalanxes on several occasions. Furthermore, Rome's ability to mobilize vast resources and troops ensured its advantage in prolonged campaigns. With the destruction of Corinth, Greece was militarily subdued, But Greek cultural influence would remain strong, as we will see in the next chapter. Although Rome had conquered Greece militarily, something curious happened after this victory. Instead of obliterating Greek culture, the Romans embraced it deeply. In many respects, Rome was a civilization that admired Greece long before the military conquest. Roman fascination with Greek art, philosophy, and science was evident, and the absorption of these influences only increased after the complete conquest. The Romans not only respected Greek culture, but saw it as a model to follow. Greek intellectuals such as philosophers and teachers became important figures in Roman education. The children of the Roman elite were often educated by Greek tutors, and many of the greatest Roman philosophers, such as Seneca and Cicero, were deeply influenced by the teachings of Greek figures like Plato and Aristotle. Moreover, Greek architecture, art, and religion were adopted and adapted by Rome. Greek temples served as inspiration for Roman buildings, and many Greek deities were incorporated into the Roman pantheon, with new names but retaining their essential characteristics. Greek mythology, for example, was reimagined in a Roman context, where Zeus became Jupiter and Athena was adapted as Minerva. The cultural assimilation was so profound that, even with Greece under Roman political and military control, the influence of Greek civilization continued to expand, now through the Roman Empire. Greece was conquered, but its culture paradoxically conquered Rome and, by extension, much of the Western world. Rome's conquest of Greece had profound and far-reaching consequences for both civilizations and the Mediterranean world. Greece, which was once the cultural and intellectual center of the ancient world, took on a new role as a Roman province. However, Greek influence did not disappear. Instead, it was integrated and disseminated throughout Rome's vast territory, reaching parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa. Rome strategically utilized Greece, leveraging its cultural tradition to strengthen the legitimacy of its own empire. With control over the Eastern Mediterranean, Rome secured access to important trade routes, wealth, and, above all, the prestige of having the lands of the cradle of Western civilization within its empire. For the Greeks, the conquest meant a new political reality. Their independence had come to an end, but, curiously, this allowed Greek culture to reach new horizons. Greek intellectuals and artists began to work in Rome, influencing Roman society and education. Stoic philosophy and Epicureanism, for example, found fertile ground among the Romans, as did Greek theater and art, which continued to thrive under Roman patronage. With Greece integrated into the Roman Empire, the Western world was decisively shaped. Rome brought Greek thought, art, and science to new audiences, ensuring that Greek civilization continued to influence the course of human history, even under the shadow of its conqueror. Rome's conquest of Greece was one of the most important events in ancient history, but its impact went far beyond battles and politics. Although Rome triumphed militarily, it was Greece that paradoxically conquered Rome in cultural terms. The fusion of the two civilizations created a new era, where Greece's intellectual and artistic achievements spread across Rome's vast territory, deeply influencing Rome's architecture, philosophy, art, and religion. This interaction between conquerors and conquered resulted in a legacy that shaped the course of Western civilization for centuries. Greek philosophy, combined with Roman practicality, established the foundations of political and legal thought that we still use today. Greek art and literature continued to inspire generations of artists and writers throughout the empire and beyond. Therefore, Rome's true victory over Greece was not just in military campaigns or political subjugation. It was in the ability to absorb, adapt, and perpetuate Greece's grand heritage. The fusion of these two cultures created one of the greatest cultural legacies in history, whose influences are still felt in the modern world. Rome may have dominated Greece, but Greek culture lived on and flourished through the Roman Empire, becoming immortal. Subscribe for more incredible videos.